What is the weirdest thing a guy has done to successfully or unsuccessfully pick you up? I apparently can't ask this on the Ask Women subreddit, so I'm hoping this isn't a problem here. Story 1. I played in a co-ed softball beer league. I hit a ball that struck a woman in the gut, hard enough that she had to sit for the rest of the night. I apologized multiple times, and she made a joke about maybe not being able to have children now, and we laughed. I still felt awful. Later, friends met me at the bar. They didn't know what had happened. She was walking by, and I stopped her and said, "How's your uterus?" My friend was horrified that I'd say that to a woman. She started laughing so hard that she said it started hurting again. She and I ended up dating for 6 months. Story 2. Successfully sent her a picture of my cat and said that he needs a mom. It worked. Unsuccessfully took up smoking to spend more time with a woman from Human Resources. Story 3. In my freshman year of high school, I thought that the best way to win over my longtime crush was to become friendly with her boyfriend. Story 4. A lifetime ago, I attended an event with live music alongside a friend. There was a girl there who was short and had a thicker build, standing at 5 feet tall and weighing around 150 to 160 pounds. She complained about not being able to see the band. Although I didn't look like a bodybuilder, I was a strong guy and had no problem lifting her above the crowd, which I did after a couple of drinks. This display of strength seemed to be very attractive to her, and we ended up dating for about 18 months, during which I felt completely objectified. Story 5. I live on an island, and I promised an amazing woman I met that I would take her on a beach date. The weather was turning progressively bad that day, and I knew by the time she got off work, we would get rained out. I transformed my covered porch into a beach resort in 4 hours. She absolutely loved the effort and my mini beach resort. Story 6. After a fairly tame first date, I asked her if she wanted to meet my dog as we were leaving the bar. We eventually had an intimate moment. My dog is an excellent companion. Story 7. I drive a manual transmission vehicle and forgot to engage the parking brake or put it in first gear. My truck rolled into her Subaru and barely left a scratch. She was a lovely woman in her late 30s, while I was in my mid-20s. I told her I would love to take her out as an apology. We went out a few times and spent a lot of time together. Story 8. I pretended to be afraid of flying once on a plane because the woman next to me was attractive. I got her number and connected with her later. Story 9. I started drawing at a bar. I told a woman at the other end, "Hey, just for your information, I'm not staring at you. I'm just drawing everything over there." We dated for a while after that. Story 10. I asked 2 Asian women if they were speaking Mandarin. Yes, it's about as close to racist as you can get, and it worked. One was an interpreter who loves languages, and the other didn't speak English. It turned out to be the perfect introduction line. After chatting for a few minutes with me because I was part of the local culture, I gave the interpreter my card and suggested we get coffee. We have been dating for a year and a half. Story 11. I was in a sink at a party and a girl walked by. She immediately turned around and started flirting. Story 12. I spent a few $100s. Now, if only I could turn that into a long-term relationship at a more efficient rate. Story 13. I have an extra ticket to Spider-Man 2 if anyone would like to come. I bought one too many tickets and could not get a refund. I ended up with a long-term friend with benefits that was nice for a while. Story 14. I didn't realize that we were on a date. I thought I was doing someone a favor by introducing my sister's attractive and successful friend to my town. We ended up at her temporary place, and she propositioned me for intimacy before I figured out that this was a romantic setup from the start. The strange thing was playing it so calmly because I put no pressure on myself. Story 15. I noticed a well-dressed woman wearing sunglasses checking me out during my lunch break from work. She noticed me noticing her, so I had to go and say hello. I had just finished my sandwich, but I needed to get rid of the packaging. I couldn't stand there and talk to her with rubbish in my hand. At the time, I still smoked, so I was using a rolled-up cigarette while she was vaping. I knew there was a bin behind the wall where she was standing, so I went over and asked, "Is there a bin around here?" She looked confused and shrugged, indicating she didn't know. I walked around the corner, threw my trash in the bin, and returned to her. I gestured to her vape and said, "I see you're a fan of modern technology," raised my rolled-up cigarette, and added, "I'm old school." I proceeded to ask her about herself, and she seemed taken with my confidence. It turns out she was from Lithuania and had just been at a job interview to be a dental nurse. I got her number and set up a date a few days later. She was actually quite attractive, though I couldn't tell that well while she was wearing sunglasses. The date went really well. A casual afternoon meetup with coffee and hanging out in the park. It was the middle of summer, and she had a friend's birthday later, but I managed to blow it with the follow-up texts afterwards. "I'm hoping to make. Is there a bin around here? The new. So, do you come here often?" They don't tell you to use that line on dating advice sites. Story 16. I was at a Taco Bell enjoying lunch when I made eye contact and smiled at a nice-looking Peruvian woman. She smiled back, and I asked her to go for a drink. After a couple of drinks, we went back to my place. We dated for 6 months. Story 17. I helped her about 2 kilometers because she rolled her ankle in high heels as the bar closed, and I saw no one was going to help. Her rude behavior was trying to provoke me the whole way and asking if tonight was the night he finally found someone. Big surprise, he didn't, but I certainly did. We dated for 3 years afterwards. Story 18. A girl named Rebecca was in my primary school class. I was 8 years old. She was pretty. I asked her if she would go out with me if I gave her my pencil case. She said yes and took my pencil case. Then she ended our relationship the next day. Story 19. I don't know if it's unusual, but I was on a Ryanair flight from Rome to Spain. While reading a book in Spanish, I asked the beautiful girl next to me what that word meant. I had been living in Spain for a few years, so I knew the language. It wasn't a long-term relationship, but we enjoyed a few weeks of fun. Story 20. I haven't done anything too unusual. I would say the strangest thing was joining the track team in high school to be around a girl I liked. I ended up leaving after a short time because I didn't need to stay longer than necessary to earn credits, and my classmates from my old physical education class missed me. Over time, I lost interest in her as she became a lot less attractive to me. Story 21. Success. I talked to a lifeguard at the lake near the camp where I worked. We used to take the kids there when I was a counselor. I dropped the corny line, "Must get boring up there just sitting, watching little kids swim all day." It started a conversation that eventually led to me getting her number, hanging out with her friends, and losing my virginity. Thanks for the amazing summer, Dana. Fail. At a friend's party after I graduated college, I had an awesome time. My friend was trying to set me up with a girl, but she wasn't really that into me, even though he thought she would be interested. I was only there for the weekend. Anyway, I ended up playing beer pong with another girl, and we hit it off. She seemed pretty cool. She took me back to her room, and I thought things were going well. But then she decided to play Scrabble and invited some friends over. We went from being alone and making out to having a group of friends, including one particular guy who was chronically single, joining us to play Scrabble and Settlers of Catan. I played along for an hour, even though I had no idea how to play, hoping they would get bored and leave or she would kick them out so we could be one-on-one again. Finally, I got bored and left. Funny thing was, on my way back to my friend's room, the girl he originally wanted to set me up with hit on me, likely because she got jealous seeing me leave with the other girl. I laughed and blew it off. I forgot what I said, but it was polite, funny, and a little dismissive. I wasn't going to give her the time of day after she seemed to reject me earlier. So I ended up just hanging out with my friend and his friends for the rest of the night. Looking back, my early 20s were a bit silly. My best girlfriend during that time was someone I dated in college, but I broke things off over geography after graduation. I should have just dated her my senior year and enjoyed the time together since she was a year younger. Instead, I thought we would fall for each other and that it would lead to a tough breakup at the end of college, so I chose not to pursue it. She married the guy after me. I made some questionable decisions back then, but it all worked out. I met my future wife when I was 25 and stopped making those poor choices. Story 22. I'm not sure if it's unusual, but when I was in my early 20s and single, I often volunteered to babysit my young nephew, who was between 4 and 8 years old. When you bring a well-behaved young man to the mall, park, or movies, women in that age group tend to notice. During conversations, when you mention that he is your nephew, it serves as a green light for them. Story 23. I drove 10 hours to meet a woman I had met online on a questionable website. She showed up but was unwell. She remained a friend for a while. Story 24. The first time I scooped her up with my left arm under her thighs, close to her knees, and wrapped my right arm across her torso. Grabbing the back of her shirt, I pulled her to my chest and off we went. It worked, but it was not very practical and felt a bit clumsy. The second time, she was on the floor. I rolled my body forward while grabbing her left leg, continued rolling, bringing her with me, and then put my shoulder under her midsection. When I rolled out, I positioned my legs under me and lifted her onto my shoulders in a carry position. I found this to be the best and most impressive method. She was also impressed. This technique requires practice, but once you master it, it becomes the best and easiest way. It works with men as well, not just women. Best of luck. Find a partner to practice with, and you will do great at lifting women wherever you go. Story 25. I briefly met this girl at a bar and felt a connection. I had to walk away from the group because I was feeling unwell and ended up sitting behind a trash can. She left the table to join me back there. After I recovered, we ended up kissing, and then we went back to her place. I can't imagine kissing someone who had just been sick. However, we ended up dating for 2 years, so the connection must have been genuine. Story 26. Back in college, I used the "how much does a polar bear weigh?" line on a girl at a party. I learned that from Reddit, so it didn't work. Story 27. I downloaded Tinder and got ghosted. The reason was that she wasn't sure if I would like her. I waited for an hour. If she had at least shown up, I would have told her how beautiful she was. I guess she had some anxiety about meeting new people, which is understandable. I hope she's okay. Story 28. I was hanging out with some friends on a trip abroad, and we went to a dance club. I was wearing a Hawaiian shirt, cargo pants, and a giant floppy straw hat that my friend had lying around. Apparently, that look worked because a very attractive local woman was interested in me all night. I didn't leave to hook up with her due to our lodging situation, and I wanted to spend time with my friends, who I rarely saw. However, she was all over me in the club. Interestingly, the fact that I clearly did not care and was not trying to be slick or suave like the local guys worked wonders. Story 29. I was giving a friend's wife pointers on how to perform oral sex without gagging. I grabbed a banana by the stem and slid it down my throat while I licked the underside. Her jaw hit the floor. Story 30. Do not try. Seriously, just have a regular conversation. It's like a superpower. Stop trying. Sure, many people seeking attention may call you boring or look at you strangely, but trust me, you do not want their time and energy. Story 31. I was introduced to a girl at a party. She was 16 and I was 17. Before I said anything else to her besides asking for her name and telling her mine, I asked for her phone number. We ended up being a couple for a year. The secret ingredient of this recipe was that I made her laugh. Story 32. A new girl joined our friend group, and she is a hyper-political liberal. I bought a shirt that said "Protect Trans Kids" and wore it one day. She loved it, but I didn't end up getting intimate. Story 33. Dress well, be social, talk, and engage in casual conversation with others while exuding positive vibes. Occasionally, the person I'm chatting with is an attractive woman who offers me her number. Sometimes, an attractive woman observes me being sociable, joins the conversation, and gives me her number. This doesn't quite align with my intentions, as I'm not trying to pick up women, but it is surprising that I receive their numbers. When I do make an effort to connect with a woman, I usually do not succeed. Story 34. Women here, my car broke down, and a man stopped and towed me to his house so he could fix it. We have been married for 10 years now. Story 35. A guy at a bar approached me and said, "I would eat your dessert like an apple fritter." It worked. He did not disappoint. Story 36. Not me, but my grandparents. He met her at a party and asked if she wanted to be intimate. She was shocked and horrified because she didn't know him. He handed her his driver's license, saying it had all his information on it so she could get to know him. Apparently, they didn't sleep together that night, but they did get married, so it worked. Story 37. I serenaded her with this. Story 38. In all the unsuccessful attempts, being unkind or foolish probably played a role. I was really skilled at that. Story 39. Recently, I watched Trolls Band Together, along with the other two Trolls movies, because the girl I was seeing was into them. Being interested in someone can make us do some unexpected things, I suppose. Story 40. I gave her a PG-13 striptease dance during an anime convention rave. It worked. I later found out that we started dating a few weeks after, leading to an extremely passionate relationship for a few years. Story 41. When I was in college, my friends and I were having fun in the dining hall one night. I ended up trying to throw a dinner roll at one of my friends but missed and hit a girl behind him that I didn't know. I immediately ran over to check if she was okay, feeling horrible about the accident. We ended up talking for the next few days, and I invited her to a party I was hosting at my place. She stopped me in the stairwell, grabbed my shirt, pushed me against the wall, and started making out with me. That night, we had a sexual encounter. The fling lasted only a month or two, but that night remains one of my greatest stories. Story 42. You can't ask that on a women's subreddit. Men are often seen negatively in society. I haven't attempted to engage with women. When I have, it's because I know a lot about their interests and stay updated on the topic. Story 43. I told a deaf girl I couldn't hear her when she signed hello to me. She laughed so hard, and we ended up having a wild one-night stand. I once said I was too awkward to ask one girl out. Then she just asked me out instead, and we ended up being friends with benefits for a couple of months. One of my ex-wife's friends asked me to help build her desk. I said, "This feels like a scene from a movie." And she replied, "Good. I was hoping you'd catch on." We ended up forming a relationship for 6 months. I told a 4'9" girl, "I could wear you like a glove." She laughed, and we went out on a few dates. I didn't end up wearing her like a glove, but we became friends. My wife told me she has a chronic illness called multiple sclerosis. When we matched, I said, "I don't know what that is, but that figure must have multiple personalities. It's so nice." She couldn't stop laughing at how bold I was. And now we're married. Story 44. Bathed like a goat and went up to her lunch table on all fours in the college cafeteria in front of the entire student body. Story 45. I met my wife while wearing 60 pounds of goalie equipment in the Arizona sun, with people shooting lacrosse balls at me. Story 46. Pretended to be a vegetarian. Pretended to be a Christian. Probably the most elaborate strategy is getting a second job in a restaurant solely to meet servers and bartenders. Story 47. I built a bar in my house and I am an excellent cook. Here are photos of my cooking and bar. I have a very high success rate, and many customers deliver themselves to my door. Story 48. I told a girl from my college class that I was an alcoholic. She invited me over and we kissed while smoking together. Story 49. My roommate invited some people over without letting me know. It was a hot day, and I was in the living room wearing only my boxers when they arrived. I was playing Halo ODST during an intense part of the game. I simply said hello and continued playing. My roommate was acting strange, but I kept focused on the game. Once I finished the level, I saved it and started to head to my room. One of the girls stopped me and asked what I was doing later that night. Her name was Zara, and we went out together that evening. My roommate was upset. Story 50. She spent the evening with her friend, who didn't work out, and found her company to be much more enjoyable. The weird part was that they had a great time together. Story 51. It works best if the girl is with a couple of friends. You approach the girl who caught your attention and specifically ask her to dance, get a drink, or chat right in front of the other women. The underlying competition is so relentless that she will be flattered and will feel inclined to spend time with you. Story 52. When I was a flight attendant, my seat position for takeoff and landing was at the back of the aircraft on a small jet. directly behind the last row, but in the center of the aisle on a pull-out seat secured by 4 straps. There were 2 flight attendants on the jet, one in the front and me in the back. After a few minutes of playfully antagonizing the flight attendant at the front during takeoff by mimicking her movements, cycling my legs as if pedaling while flapping my arms like a chicken, and trying to get her to play rock, paper, scissors while the passengers could only see her, I eventually got her to start mimicking me in retaliation. The setup was complete. At this point, I raised my legs by placing 1 foot on the back of each passenger seat in front of me, spread eagle, and proceeded to mime giving birth with deep breaths, receiving the baby from a doctor, and mouthing "it's a boy" to the other flight attendant. She found me amusing, and last month we celebrated our 2nd wedding anniversary. Story 53. I told a soccer mom that I was a big fan of a certain boy band. I'm goth, so what would make you think I like boy bands? Story 54. One of my coworkers in a restaurant was a cook, and I was a waiter. I directly told her she was mine in front of the other restaurant staff. I was the one who was in for a surprise. She was together with someone at the time and had 2 kids. Despite this, it broke the ice. I learned a lot from her, and we did crazy things together, like fleeing the city in her car with her 2 babies. We ended things on a note of understanding. We live and we learn. I dropped her off at the airport, never to see her again. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.